Hey everybody, welcome back to Riverwalk Talk. My name is Chip Harrington. I'll be your host once again this week. This is a show I started a little while ago. Actually, I started in January when it was snow on the ground. So we're into May now. So we finally got some nice weather, and try to just profile some different people or issues we have in the region and kind of bring some awareness. Kind of a public resource that we're just providing for you. So today, I'm going to be talking to an individual. It's going to be a very kind of a heavy subject, it's a very serious subject. We're going to be talking about childhood mental health and childhood suicide, teenage suicide. I served on the school committee in Ludlow for many years, and I can say for the 18 years that I served on the committee, the mental health components that are taking place in public schools now are more than they ever have been, and there needs to be more and more resources for that. And that's not just here in Ludlow, that's nationwide. And I talked to an individual today who has very sadly suffered a loss of a child to suicide. And she's kind of become a content expert and a really strong advocate for children's mental health. So I think it would just be nice for people out there to understand some of the warning signs and issues that young people are dealing with today. So today, I'm happy to say hello to my friend Karen Tokarz Carreira. How are you?
I am doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me on, Chip.
Thank you so much for coming on, for having me on your show. We
having you on my show.
Right, exactly. So we're going to start over here at the cul-de-sac, and we're going to walk down to the clock tower. Nice. It's 1.1 miles. So I emailed her a while ago, or texted her through Facebook, I should say, and she said, "Okay, fine, we'll do it. Just don't power walk, Chip. This is the one requirement. Don't be power walking through this thing, because it's true, I do kind of tend to walk a little fast, but I've learned my lesson since doing this thing.
We're going to enter the Hope Stroll area, so
yes, it's exactly
stroll for a reason.
We're definitely doing a little stroll. So, and if you're looking, I do have a little scar on my neck. I had some surgery a little while ago. Everything's fine, but in case you think I look like Frankenstein right now, it's because I do. So, well, it's very nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Thank you so much for coming out. It's a beautiful day. We're here in mid-May. Today's actually my daughter's birthday.
Happy birthday to your daughter.
Yeah, Riley.
Today's
happy
Pamela
birthday.
Chaplin's birthday today too.
Okay, very nice.
All kinds of celebrations.
A lot of good
It's
things.
also Mental Health Awareness Month.
Great segue. Feels like you've done this before. So I was just kind of saying at the top of the show. So it's a very heavy subject. And as I was kind of preparing and kind of just putting some stats in my head as to what's taking place, not just here in the western part of the state or the east coast, but the whole country. Childhood mental health has really exploded. I would say, I don't know, I'm sure there's some stats, but certainly in the 18 years I sat in the school committee, we really talked about it quite a bit and trying to provide more and more resources for that. So
that was how many years ago?
Well, I started in the school committee in 2005.
Yeah.
So it's and I've been off for a few years already. But so before we kind of get into the details of mental health for children, so first of all, I can never say this enough, but my condolences to you and your family, you and Michael and everybody in your family for the loss of Nate, your son.
Thank you.
I didn't, he was really 15 years old when this took place. I didn't really know him. Tell us about Nate a little bit.
He was very tall, very sensitive kid. Looked like me. Dark eyes, dark hair, really sensitive nature. Sensitive to the point where, like, he would struggle here and there. I knew that, like, we had to really think about that. Also, he lived his life with life-threatening food allergies, which, when you think about it, if you are constantly thinking about what you're putting in your body can kill you.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of stress does that put on somebody's energy, someone's spirit? So he lived with that. And as he grew, I kind of thought to myself, we all thought to ourselves, like, if I can give him the information that he needs to make good choices, read food labels, to do all of that, I've done my job, right? And somewhere deep inside, I thought, well, I'm checking all the boxes, and if horrible thing, might be the way I lose him, right? but I'm going to equip him with all the information possible. Never
Right.
Never in my wildest dreams did I think that he would take his life.
Yes.
And so knowing that he had that sensitive spirit coming out of 8th grade into 9th grade, he really started to struggle. Grades, some relationships, friendships, just feeling like he didn't fit in and really struggling. And so we rallied around, got him the help that, we connected him to. Me and my background with mental health, called everybody I knew, dotted all the I's and the T's.
Right.
And still, when I think back today, there was so much I didn't know back then that I wish I knew.
Right.
And then, trying to think about how, what could we have done different? And at the time, with the resources we had, we did the best we could, right?
Of course, absolutely. So when you say he was a sensitive kid, so even from just, little toddler, little kid running around, kind of, when you say sensitive, meaning like he felt compassion or empathy for others, or he was just really...
Felt others' energy.
Okay.
If like we had a new cat, and we got a cat, and the cat got lost somewhere. We have a house in Vermont, and we couldn't find the cat. And he was so devastated that we would lose that cat, and that where is that cat? And when the cat finally came back, like him breaking down in tears.
Oh, wow.
To know that he was safe, the cat was safe, kind of thing. And if you take that and overlay that on many other different things.
Yeah. So as he grew, from a little boy, baby, toddler, was he very involved with sports? Did he have was his friendship network pretty tight?
He was not a soccer player.
Okay.
But my family really loves skiing. And so both kids learned how to ski top to bottom Stratton at 2 years old.
Oh, wow.
My husband's a ski racer. And so that was a piece of what we did. And Nathan really excelled at ski racing. His favorite event was slalom racing. There's a bunch of different options for downhill racing.
Yep.
That was his favorite event. And we created and built a family up there with friends, and he really excelled and did a great job there. He was a member of the LHS ski team too.
Yep.
And I think that last March, he competed, and I think he was like top 10 across the state.
Oh, wow.
For that particular event.
Yep. Interesting.
So, yeah,
wow.
and he played football.
Yep.
He loved football. Had some really good friends on the football team. Liked baseball too. Played catcher, which is not the easiest position.
Right. I think
found his way,
I think your brother was a catcher back in the day, right?
Pitcher too.
He's a pitcher, yeah. Tad Tokarz, principal of...
I'm Tad's sister, by the way.
Tad.
And Beverly's daughter.
Yes, Beverly Tokarz. Everybody knows the Tokarz family. So he, becomes a young teen, seems pretty well adjusted, or still a sensitive person, but were there signs, like you said, you're trained, you're a mental health
that's the irony
clinician.
of it all, isn't it?
Did you pick up on anything, or?
Yeah, we had those conversations too. So when I say that I called everybody I knew and I dotted the I's and crossed the T's, we thought we were doing all that we possibly could. And then,
Yeah. Yeah. So leading up to that, when you look at, obviously hindsight's always 20/20, but in the moment when you made those phone calls, what were those triggers, or what were those signs that you were picking up on that, like, hey, Nate seems to be really struggling with some things here?
Moody. So when we think about suicide prevention, we think about warning signs, and they come in 3 categories. They come, and it's a shift and change in any of them. So how people talk, the words they say, what they don't say.
Yep.
Their behaviors, what they do, what they don't do, or do less of, and mood, and how people present, and shifts and changes, and all of that. And I think in each of those categories, I could see that he was struggling, including grades,
what had he been?
Attitude.
Had he been a pretty good student prior to kind of some of these struggles he was dealing with?
Well, I wouldn't say school was his favorite place to be.
Okay, that's
but he held his own.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was a struggle for him to keep his grades up and his energy going, entering into high school.
Okay. At any point, did you suspect that he may be capable of hurting himself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We talked about it. And still, you know, you can talk about it. You can have people have conversations about it.
Hey, puppies.
And, you know, I feel very bad saying, you just don't think it's going to happen to you, right? The awareness of it wasn't at a level of a mind wrapping itself around the possibility of that happening, right? And that's a big piece of why I do the work that I do, because even if I have all the information in front of me, there's still the disconnect that it could happen in your backyard, in your family, in your neighborhood, in your town.
Yeah. The ripple effect of something like an incident like this, where a young person takes their life. Again, this is a really difficult conversation to even have, but it's an important conversation to have, because hopefully maybe there's somebody out there watching this that is kind of like, hey, you know, I'm feeling some of these same things. And we'll have some contact information in case they can reach out to you or the suicide hotline. But the ripple effect that takes place when somebody hurts themselves like this is just so, I mean, the family, obviously the extended family, the friends, but the first responders, the neighborhood, just the community in general. I do remember, you know, when I first heard the news, it was kind of like a gut punch. It was like, ugh, like how, like what could possibly you know, he felt hopeless where he had
what does that even mean?
To
like,
do
how
that.
How do you even comprehend that? How do you understand that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
For sure. And every layer that someone's engaged in it, and the ripple effect does go out, direct and indirect impact. Ooh, that's my favorite smell. You smell that?
Look at her. She's like
that's
a squirrel, you know.
My favorite June smell.
It does smell like a lilac or something like that. Yeah. It's springtime, so all sorts of things coming out.
Refocus. So the ripple effect is great. So, you know, direct friends, family members, and then you go out to extended family, you go out to schools, you go out to the community, first responders for sure.
Yep. Yeah. So the incident takes place. Was there a note? Was there something? Was there a goodbye? Did he, you know, what was that?
Yeah, in some of the circles that we talk about safe messaging around suicide and how you share your story. So I have chosen to just say, the details of things aren't really terribly important, you know, but the concept of it is. So he left a poem.
Okay.
And when we do look back, and I look back, because I do this work every single day, I can put those subtle warning signs together with a lens that I didn't have in 2018. And I say, oh, okay, you know, maybe I would have asked a different question here, or maybe I would have connected him in a different way there.
Right. So it's been 7 years.
Yeah. I spend a lot of time working to not be in that place. There's a person called, Dr. Jack Jordan talks about the tyranny of hindsight.
Yeah.
And if we spend all of our time in the would-haves, could-haves, should-haves, like that'd be a horrible place to be. I don't want to be there.
Right. You'll never move on. So
I visit there sometimes.
Yeah.
But I work really hard to focus on what lessons did we learn, how I still talk about him every day.
Good.
And how do I move that energy forward to help other people who are currently struggling, or building awareness so that people aren't taken by surprise.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's 7 years ago when your son did this. The family, your family unit, you, your husband, the rest of your family, obviously there's the shock and awe, but you've obviously moved on, you know, well, as much as you possibly can, I should say. You moved through it, and you're the advocate now, but how did your family, I guess, immediately or in the months, years afterwards kind of pull themselves together? Because this could be traumatic for a family. This could break up
It is
families.
traumatic for a family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I shouldn't say could be. It absolutely
My eye
is.
is watering because it's very, pollen is everywhere. So
That's okay. Well, we're
what
talking
I
about a
say.
pretty heavy subject. So
Yeah.
even if you are getting emotional, you have earned every right.
Thank you.
How did you guys deal with that as a family? I
Well,
should say.
I don't know, something spoke to us to say that we're not going to hide it. We're not going to pretend it was something else.
Yep.
That the conversation around suicide was really important
Yep.
to help not only us survive, but his friends and family survive.
Right.
And so we were pretty clear about that up front.
What's up, Dave?
Hi. And then to help our surviving daughter, get her feet on the ground. Like I had a responsibility to her to figure my way out to a place of being solid enough to be able to support her.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
How are you? How old is his sister?
She just turned 19.
19.
Yeah.
And Nate would have been 22
Yeah,
right now? Okay, so she was the younger sister.
she was.
That's a whole nother set of
I mean, we could do a couple shows.
emotional baggage, you know. How is she doing?
She's got her feet solid on the ground. She is doing really well right
Yeah.
now. Thank you for asking.
She's out of high school. What's her
Yeah,
career?
she graduated. She is, this kind of thing impacts you, changes your life.
For sure.
And she has kind of gone different routes of how she wants to be in the world. And she's really considering like a peer support kind of work,
Wow.
where she takes her own lived experience and kind of does similar stuff to me, gives it back, to those who are struggling through her
Yeah.
survival story.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure it's changing. And Michael, your husband, how is he doing?
He's doing good too.
Yeah.
He's a reader, we're dove deep into research and understanding on the complexities of all of this. And so, he's got his angle of like the academic kind of absorption of it. I'm more of the outward advocate and public speaker kind of end of that.
Yeah.
We do a ton of fundraising for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention here in Massachusetts, and for Nathan's Endowment Fund in Vermont. So, and he's a racer, so he's the first one down the hill when we have Shred for Nate in March.
Michael is?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Very cool. Yeah, I want to talk about that as far as, some of the advocacy work you're doing. But just kind of tie in everything as far as the extended family, like you said, your mom, your
rally.
brother, your
Everybody
sister.
rallies.
Yeah.
And like most families, ours hasn't been without tragedy, in other years with other members too.
Yeah.
And so, pull together, figure out who needs support, when they need support,
Yeah.
stand as a unit, show up at events, ask if people need help, have open conversations, which are not always easy, but
Especially,
this kind of forces the envelope a little bit more.
Yeah. Do you find that people sometimes don't even know how to carry themselves around you, what to say around you? Because number one, there's that they feel very bad and sympathetic, but they also, maybe it's a trigger for them in some way that they're afraid to look at their own lives. Do you ever find that?
Yes and yes. I find myself in the position of helping other people feel better about it when they're saying they feel bad for me.
Yep.
It's okay, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that reciprocal weird flip of they're offering me condolence, but I'm really holding them in this conversation.
Right.
And then, forgot what your other question was.
Yeah, no, just as far as them,
Awareness?
Yeah, or just, number one, being afraid to sort of open up because they don't want to create a trigger for you. I mean, as I'm chatting with you about this.
That's number one myth that we try to bust in all of the work that I do. The more that we keep this conversation silent, isolated, in the dark, the greater the stigma is. And when stigma is high, fear is high. And fear prevents people from
acting.
Asking for help or helping others who need it.
Right.
Right? And so the more we talk about it, AFSP's flagship awareness program is called Talk Saves Lives. And so that's the truth of it. If we can put it out in the open and normalize a conversation of hard things and emotions, so I forgot, there could be another soapbox I stand on around. We don't talk about emotions. We don't talk about feelings.
True.
And how do we help people do that?
So you're, like I said, you're kind of the content expert, sadly, for this. What are the numbers out there as far as the rise of childhood mental health and teenage suicide?
Well, so where do I start?
Yeah, I know, right?
So the verified data from the CDC, they collect death reporting and organize it into these data captures. And we have verified information from 2022. Any month we'll get 2023 verified data. We're looking at numbers close, if not more than, exceeding 50,000 individuals who've died by suicide in the United States in 2023.
In just that 1 year?
1 year.
Okay.
In 2022, the state of Massachusetts saw 627 individuals die by suicide.
Well, when you say individual, you're talking about children or just individuals?
All ages.
Okay.
It's the second leading cause of death for youth aged 10 to 24.
That is an amazing stat.
Yeah, it's not just Massachusetts, it's national.
But the second leading cause of death for kids, you said 10 to 24?
Young adults. Young adults.
That
10
is
to 24.
Scary.
Second only to unintentional injury, which is accidents. We'll get more data and more sort of integrated pictures of what fentanyl overdoses and overdoses, how those are dovetailing into that too. It's hard. Yeah. But the data that we have and the numbers we see, I'll give you another picture. In 2018, the year that Nathan died, ironically, it was the highest point of suicide deaths in the United States.
Interesting.
Over a 30-year capture of time.
Okay.
And since then, so we've got 2018 at the peak. We have 2019 getting a little bit better. 2020 through COVID kind of staying stagnant or maintaining where they were. And now that we're seeing coming out of those initial years, and just thinking about the climate of the world these days. Hi there.
Nope.
The numbers are going in the wrong direction.
Sure.
So,
which brings me to, I guess, something I feel. I don't know if this is correct or not, but I think a lot of studies have maybe pointed this way too. But social media, you and I didn't grow up with social media, thank God, right?
I say that, yes.
Yeah, we all say that. Trust me, if social media existed, I would have never run for a public office because there have been too many pictures out there of stupid things I did over the years. Not that it mattered anyways. But the social media impact to young people, there's some great components. We're using social media right now to kind of get this word out there. This is a great use of it. But if there was a bullying incident, if there was a situation at school, when you and I were kids, you went home and you had a bit of a respite for 8 hours, 10 hours. Now, these young people, the bullying is it just gets extended into the,
Well, it's 24/7 access, which is just this chronic grind on your ability to just have to show up. Right? Or if you want to shut it off, there's this huge drive that you're going to miss something, or especially with our younger kids. I'll talk loud as we walk past the excavator.
I know. These microphones are really great, so we should be good. But we're walking by Tan and Bagel right now. They're putting a patio in, which I'm hoping to get these guys on the show pretty soon to see what it looks like.
So this looks like a great place.
Oh my God. I know it's bagels, but I'm really excited for it. All right, so going back to social media, the impact of...
Yeah, so I was at a conference last week, and as part of a larger content that this lady was talking about, she referenced I don't know if it's a tech or a data research company or something. I think it was called Gardner or whatever, but they just wrote a paper, and they said that in like 5 years, maybe not even 3 to 5 years, 1 billion people will have an addiction to social media.
Yeah. Listen, I think I probably have it already. I sit there and scroll through these little reels, and just one leads into the next.
Yeah.
The next thing I know, I'm like, oh my God, I got to go to bed, kind of a thing. And I think many of us are out there in that same little rabbit hole.
And what does that tell me? That tells me that, well, okay, there's a reason people are gravitating towards it. Every scroll you take, every new picture you look at, you're getting this dopamine hit that feels good, right? And so you go after that more. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But the other side of it is the disconnection. So you're in this world that is virtual and not real human connection. So if we go back to being able to tolerate emotions, being able to understand what emotions are, we're disconnected from that human connection.
Yes, right. So the impact, going back to childhood mental health, these kids are growing up in this society. So, you and I know we have a sense of what it was like prior to this. So at least we can maybe rack our mind around it. These kids don't have that ability whatsoever. So there's got to be a correlation there between mental health, social media, and the childhood suicide. That's
and extreme loneliness. You might have 10,000 friends online, but do you really have a friend?
Exactly.
And so the level of connection and belonging. So if we look at protective factors in terms of suicide prevention, we want to look at connection, human connection, and belonging. If a kid can have or identify one trusted adult in their life and a connection to their school, then we're decreasing their risk for suicide greatly. So, that conversation of trying to bring communities together, trying to promote putting the phone down, is the energy behind, a majority of the work that I do.
Sure. I believe it was Ireland that recently passed a law. I don't know what the age was, but I'm going to say maybe 16, where you had to be at least 16 to have a social media network, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is. How they police that, I don't know, but it's at least a good, I guess, starting effort. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, acknowledging that it's a problem.
Yeah.
And the benefits of it are outweighed by the problems of it. We got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But raising awareness about how social media directly connects to some of these mental health challenges, I think really is the conversation. Putting a damper on social media, you're going to get direct reactions that are
right.
Don't be so down on this. It's great, blah blah blah. Well, let's talk a little bit deeper about how that manifests in people's development.
Right.
And I don't know.
So a young mom, young dad, they have a baby. I mean, kids are given a tablet so early on now, just to sort of, I got to go do the laundry, I got to make some dinner, so they give them the tablet. It's kind of like when, your mom and my mom sat us in front of the TV.
We're in a multitasking society.
Right.
And that multitasking society pushes us to do more, do it faster, do it better. What are we missing while we do that? That's our priority. We're missing the connection and the belonging that take time. Right.
But I think what I was going towards is that, these young children get a tablet at such a young age, and the stimulation of kids know how to swipe.
Well, that's where the addiction starts.
Yeah, exactly.
You're forming your brain. Our brains don't fully form until they're 25.
Yeah, but the cat's out of the bag on that. I don't know if we're ever reversing that that ability, but I guess my question is somebody who's sort of the content expert. We'll go over here. We'll spin around so we can put the clock tower behind us.
Okay.
Where are you going?
I'm not done. We got to do part two.
No, we're definitely. I'm going to go back on this side of you. No, we're definitely not done for sure. It's just easier to finish the show this way and have the clock tower behind us. But because I still want to talk about the fundraiser and all that stuff. But like I was saying regarding the social media component and the tablet, where literally babies are getting tablets. I know, young children sometimes are coming into school districts and they're they see a page and they're swiping rather than turning the page. They're so used to just swiping the page up for it to go up, and
Yeah.
that's not a good sign.
Well, you know, evolution happens, right?
Yep.
And so we evolved from the days that we grew up, where we had the rotary phone, one phone on a wall.
Yep.
You know, we have we look like people from another planet, so we
Right.
talk about that now. So the understanding of how fast everything has evolved too, it really has evolved the nature of a person growing up in the world.
Yep.
You know, what they think of the world today is so much different than 30 years ago, exclamation point.
Yep.
And so what are we doing? Because I'm not going to be able to stop any of that, right? I can't put a halt on phones.
Right.
I understand the brevity of all of that, and I also know where my limits are, and I focus on what I can do to make my corner of the world a better place for the people I love, for the people I'm connected to, and maybe that spirit, that energy is a ripple effect in other ways.
Yep.
So if we can bring back more community, slowing things down, thinking about what priorities are, having a meal together at a table, right? Rather than
Yep.
it being piecemeal or on the go all the time. It's hard when we're pressed to maybe work 2 jobs, where you have to like go from babysitter to another class to another thing. The pressure of being involved in everything. You know, there's lots of ways to. There's a lot to unpack with all of this and the challenges for young families now. But I think it goes back to that connectedness and belonging. And so if families can think about where are we connected, how do we and who do we belong with, then we're creating the gap and maybe the cushion around all of this other technology or other outside influences that are kind of pulling us in directions that keep us separated.
Yeah, very, very well said. So going back to the actual fundraiser, so you have Shred for Nate. It's the skiing event that takes place.
So it's all the 91 corridors. So we
Right.
I do a lot of work in Vermont. We're connected to the Stratton Community Foundation, where Nathan has an endowment fund, and built only because of the family that we created up in Vermont since the kids were babies, right? So 20 years of that. And just the outpouring of love and support and connection. And we talked about impact earlier. The impact and the ripple effect across families up there at the ski areas was incredible. Like they're still on board with us today, and those kids are carrying Nathan's friends will carry that forever.
Yeah.
So we do that fundraiser, Shred for Nate. It's at Stratton Mountain. His friends put it together. They came to our house the day after he passed. His ski buddies sat in our living room, and Michael asked them, you know, everybody's all emotional and how can we be helpful? And Mike asked, how can we help you? Right? And they said, well, we want to do something. We want to get active. We want to feel like we're a part of doing something, right? Action helps to regulate emotions.
Yeah.
And they said, let's do a race. So they put that together. They named it Shred for Nate,
Wow.
and it's been going ever since.
Yeah.
So we have that strong. It's a part of the Community Foundation's pillars of the Southern Vermont footprint. We're doing lots of grant work and training and just mental health awareness in schools across that area. And then I don't work for them. I volunteer for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention here in Massachusetts. I just was nominated board chair, so another level of engagement and possible opportunities to make some change. And so we do a fundraiser here in Western Mass. Our area walk is at the end of October. This year it'll be October 25th. At School Street Park in Agawam. So we put Team Nathan together.
Yep.
We raise money. We've been the top fundraisers for all the years that we've had a team in this area. And we do a youth mental health afternoon at Soul Syndicate, formerly Iron Duke.
Right.
And so we'll do that, I think it's Sunday, September 21st. And it's community open, family friendly. Just come, join, talk about mental health, connection.
Yep.
Right? Building a connection, bringing people together who may have been impacted or may not, maybe want to learn something more, maybe want to support an individual who is struggling, resources, information, and a way to feel like you're doing something.
Yeah.
When sometimes in this world it's hard to feel that way.
Yeah. And it's, like I said at the top of the show, it's a really difficult conversations to have. I was anxious about talking to you about this because it's I got children and it's hard to imagine. But how you, Michael, your daughter, have kind of, and your whole family has kind of moved forward with this is nothing less than remarkable in how you're doing. I mean, I'm sure you know, sadly, so many other families who are in a similar situation that maybe just curl up into a ball and stay, they just retreat rather than doing what you're doing.
People are different, right? People experience grief different. There's not one way to experience grief. And I think about like, what are the lessons I learned and what gift did Nathan give me? Maybe in this greater scheme of the universe and what our purpose here is, like he was given to us for us to do this, right? In the 15 years we had him, we celebrate and we remember with joy and talk about him every day, right? I do anyway in my work. And tell our story as a way to reach others, to provide hope. Hope is a big piece of this, right? Emotions don't stay the same forever. If you're feeling really lousy today, it doesn't mean that you'll feel lousy in 6 months. And if you are struggling, there's resources and people available to help. And so that hope piece and the just for whatever reason, us being able to stand on our feet and talk publicly and be activists around it, I just feel that was the gift Nathan gave us.
Sure, that's very well said. In the area, so there's obviously the National Suicide Hotline that's available. Where could people go mental health-wise? What would you suggest that I can include in the link here?
Sure, I'll also provide you the whole list of resources if you want to put them somewhere.
Yep.
988 is our National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. So that you can call 24/7. It's confidential lifeline. It's also a warm line. Call with questions. Call with concerns. You don't quite know what to do as a caregiver. They're on the other end of that phone to help you out. Massachusetts also has the Behavioral Health Helpline, which is also a 24/7 line. They work in partnership with 988. They have the mobile crisis teams. They have access to getting them to sites. Where is there open resources, open providers, open beds for people, doing all that kind of stuff. There are also AFSP, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, is a great resource for walks, for support groups, lost survivor support groups. I could go on for days, but I will provide you that list because there is a lot out there. It's hard to navigate a system when you're I call it the alphabet soup of services. What do the acronyms mean? Who connects to who? How do you get associated with them? And so that a lot of the work that I do is helping people understand what their resources are. So happy to have people reach out or provide you with that list for conversations, meeting at one of our events, or just emailing me and asking questions.
Okay. Yeah, if you could send me that stuff, I'll definitely put it in the link here. So if anybody is interested, if you're suspecting that someone in your family might be struggling in some way, those are those resources you want to reach out to. If somebody just needs to talk, you're a healthy shoulder to lean on when somebody wants to do that as well too.
More than happy to. It's the difference of seeing the adage, see something, say something. I would rather people. One of the myths, and I'd like to put this out there, is that if you ask about suicide or you ask about mental health, you're going to give people ideas, and it doesn't work that way. And we have to debunk that myth. Actually talking about things, saying the words out loud, having the hard conversations brings that loneliness, that isolation, that darkness to the surface, into the light, where resources can be connected to. People can feel not alone, right? There are people around. So I would rather folks ask hard questions and be wrong 1,000 times over than to not ask a question at all because of fear of this, that, or the other, and be right. One death by suicide is one death by suicide too many, and there's tons of work for us to keep doing.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking some time.
My pleasure.
Did we walk too fast? How was it?
Well, I tried. I have my brain's going, my feet are going. It was a little of coordination, but it was fun. I appreciate it.
You did wonderful. We did take it nice and slow, Beverly. I know you're wondering right now, did we walk too fast? I went very, very slow, I promise you. So again, thank you so much for doing this. If you ever want to come back on to promote something, happy to use this as a resource.
Oh, great.
And we'll spread it as much as we can.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
All right. Thank you. If you have any questions, again, we'll have the links down below. I do have a YouTube channel. If you want to see past shows, feel free to check that out. That's Riverwalk Talk with Chip Harrington. And we'll see you very soon.